Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Friday, August 8th. This is episode 596 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Of course, appreciate all of those tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. And today we are previewing the Jets versus Packers preseason game number 1 tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern at Lambeau Field. And of course, the biggest storyline heading into this one, the New York Jets will be playing their starters. At the time of this recording, we are just a little over 24 hours away from the New York Jets playing a live football game for the first time this preseason. And today I'm going to break down everything to watch for in this game, both on the offensive side of the football as well as the defensive side of the football. And of course, we'll discuss some key special teams areas to watch as well tomorrow night when the New York Jets take the field. As I mentioned, it is 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. NFL Network also on the local CBS New York channel as well. And of course, we'll start with the biggest storyline heading into this game. As Aaron Glenn announced yesterday, the New York Jets starters will be playing in this one tomorrow night. The Green Bay Packers also will be playing their starters as well. We don't know how long the Jets starters will play. Glenn said that yesterday as well. He didn't give an exact, set of drives, an exact snap count, just said they'll be playing. I expect probably 2 drives. That 2 drives might end up being a quarter, depending on how the flow of the game is, depending on how things are going, both offensively, defensively, what the drives are looking like in the time of the game. But that is what I would expect to be the case. But either way, and I said this a little bit yesterday towards the end of my training camp recap episode, and I want to say it again here, this is 100% in my opinion, the right decision here for the New York Jets. And I also can't say I'm all that surprised with this decision by Aaron Glenn. Of course, earlier in the week, he, said that he would make the announcement later in the week. There was no clear decision. But the way that Glenn has ran practices, the physicality in these practices, the physical training camp, the tackling drills, they're basically doing Oklahoma drills. And also Glenn's Parcells background cut from that same cloth. You connect all those dots and you got that real feeling that this would be a group that would play in the preseason and not just sit out. And you also got that feeling too when you heard Justin Fields speak to the media earlier this week saying how he would like to play in the preseason and feels that it would be important and something that he feels should be done, build chemistry with these receivers, continue to learn the offense himself as well, continue to improve in a live game environment. So you connect all those dots, and that's where we get to here. The Jets starters will be on the field when kickoff begins tomorrow night against the Packers, and I really feel it's the right decision. I do. It's also a young team. Not only if Glenn didn't play the starters, it would be almost everything against what he's done and talked about. Everything he's done and talked about has been competitiveness. It's been the physicality. It's been the heavy workload this training camp, right? Trying to change the culture from years past of that country club environment that has taken over this team. For them to go out there and say that these players are not going to play in the preseason would just go against everything we've heard and seen so far in training camp. And it's also a young team. This is a team that could use the reps. It's a lot different from last year where You had a lot of veterans. It was one of the oldest rosters in the NFL, guys that didn't really need to be in the preseason. Now, you look at this team, sure, there are some veterans, but there is also a lot of guys that could use the preseason. And even some of these guys on offense, it's a new system. It's a new quarterback. You want to mesh. You want to build chemistry in an in-game environment as well. That is very important on top of the training camp reps that these guys are getting. And I'll throw one other thing out here too. This is a team that's been incredibly soft. This is a team that has gotten off to many slow starts under Robert Saleh. It is key this year and every year under Glenn. One of the biggest changes that needs to happen is the quick starts. And you've seen positives in training camp that give you belief that this team can start much faster than Saleh's teams were able to. But playing in preseason as well helps, or should help, that case as well. And it's important for Aaron Glenn and this staff and this regime to get off to a quick start here in year number one to build some positive momentum. You don't want to be the team that we've seen under Saleh get pushed around early in the season because they're not ready because of what took place over the summer. So that's my initial thoughts. Those are my overall thoughts. Agree with the move, right decision, not overly surprised either, not really surprised at all. If Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase can play in the preseason last night, there's no reason Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson, and the rest of this offense can see the field as well in preseason game number one. So that's just my initial open there on everybody playing, starters playing in the preseason, Glenn making that decision official yesterday. Now, we'll break it down position by position here, right? It's preseason game number one, so not going to go crazy in depth in terms of, keys and all that stuff. No, we do that during the regular season. It's just a preseason game. So just want to break down some things at each position to look for tomorrow night, some position battles, some depth guys, some guys that have looked good in camp. Can you transfer that now into a game? Starting with the quarterbacks, we kind of just talked about it there in the open, but again, right, Justin Fields, how does he look in this offense? We all know what he can do with his legs from a running perspective, but can he go out there tomorrow, look comfortable in this pass game, spread the ball around a bit? How does that Garrett Wilson connection look in game? We've seen those two connect, obviously, a lot in training camp. How much is Fields able to spread the ball around with these receivers? Or is anybody in this receiver room able to emerge? We'll get to that here more in a second, but more so it's just Fields continue to make strides as a passer and continue to learn this offense, continue to build chemistry with these guys around you, and doing that in game is important. And I also think part of it is to build off of this. Is a next couple days are really important now for this offense and Justin Fields specifically. There was a rough couple days of practice last week. Thursday was a bounce back practice. You now get the preseason game tomorrow, and then you get those two joint practices against the Giants, and then you get another preseason game against the Giants. So this next week here for Justin Fields is really pivotal, a very pivotal point this summer in him and his development and this offense's development as a whole under Tanner Engstrand. So Fields passing in this offense, how does he look? I'll also throw this out there too. Just be smart. The last time, and this is the risk you run with preseason games, playing guys, the last time a Jet starting quarterback played in the preseason was 2022, Zach Wilson against the Eagles. We all remember that game. Feared the worst at the time, but when he scrambled and instead of just going out of bounds, cut back upfield, and of course injured his knee, missing the first 4 games of the season, Fields tomorrow be smart. You want to scramble, you want to run, fine. Slide down, go out of bounds. It's a preseason game. Don't risk your health. Don't do anything stupid. Come out of this game healthy. Come out of it with a couple good plays. Come out of it with 2 positive drives and move on to the joint practices and the rest of training camp and the rest of preseason. So I'll throw that in here as well, just on a general Justin Fields evaluation for tomorrow. Quarterback 3, you're going to see a lot of these guys, kind of that QB3 battle, but with Tyrod out, you're going to see a lot of Adrian Martinez and a lot of Brady Cook. So get ready for that once these starters are off the field tomorrow night That's the quarterbacks. In terms of the running backs, really excited to see just what this run game looks like these first couple drives and really all night, because the run game all training camp has been positive. But we talk about the three-headed monster, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis. Really excited to see what those guys can do tomorrow. And really excited, too, just to see Breece. I'll focus on him here in a second. What does he look like as a pass catcher? We've seen him used a lot as a receiver in this offense. Intrigued to see how much of that we see tomorrow. Or they're not going to give everything away, and it's only 2 drives, so you're only going to be able to do so much as an offense. You're only going to run so many plays tomorrow. But I am interested to see how much of Breece Hall is potentially involved in this pass game, because that has been a focal point. That has been a clear point of emphasis for Tanner Engstrand and this Jets offense so far in this summer. Braylon Allen's had a very strong camp. Isaiah Davis has had a very strong camp. Those 2 guys in games behind this offensive line will be really interesting. And even after the starters get off, seeing those 2 guys out there will be fun to watch. The run game's been a strength this summer. It's going to be the identity of this team. Watching it tomorrow in a game action, live game environment will be something to definitely look forward to. So that's the run game and the running backs as a whole there. Isaiah Davis, too, and Braylon from a receiving game perspective as well. How much can they be used? How much will they be used in some of these situations tomorrow in the drives and reps that they get? Both of those guys as well have that under the radar ability. And we talk about their ability to cut up field, hit the hole hard, get to the second level. Can you see some of those things tomorrow night? In terms of the wide receivers, Garrett, Fields, mentioned that early, that connection. I'm sure you'll see some plays there. Really, this is one of the most important positions to me personally in the preseason. I think we're going to very well tomorrow night. We might walk away from the game with 2 really extreme feelings in a way in this receiver room. It's obviously a weakness behind Garrett Wilson, and nobody's really emerged. And that's where tomorrow night, this is one of the biggest positions that I'm looking for, is can any of these guys separate themselves or make a name for themselves or produce, not even just dominate, go out there and have this crazy, but can any of these guys go out there tomorrow and look okay, look solid, start to separate themselves a bit in game action? I really think tomorrow and in live game scenario here, you don't want to see a world where this receiver core is just nothing and nobody's getting open and it's just Garrett Wilson, because we've seen some of that in training camp. But now in a game, can any of these guys make some plays tomorrow? Can any of these guys catch your eye a bit? We all know what Josh Reynolds has been able to do as the wide receiver 2 at times in camp. Him and Fields have had a nice connection in a couple of these practices. Here's this team's clear-cut wide receiver number 2. So him and Garrett, they're going to get their fair share of looks when they're on the field to open things up tomorrow. But after that, you're looking at the Allen Lazards of the world. He has done nothing in training camp. Does he do anything in the game tomorrow? I'm even looking at Tyler Johnson, because I do think that is sort of a real battle for wide receiver 3. I think there's a real chance that Tyler Johnson, when week 1 rolls around, is this team's wide receiver 3. But even Tyler Johnson recently here has plateaued a bit. I thought he had a very strong start to training camp, and recently, these last couple practices, has slowed down a bit. So tomorrow night, can he make a couple plays and emerge a bit in this wide receiver room as a potential wide receiver 3? Obviously, the rookie Arian Smith, I'm excited to see his speed in a live game tomorrow. He's had a very nice summer. Tomorrow will be really interesting to see what he can do, too, because game's faster. It's a game environment, right? We say this over and over again today on the pod, but that's the best way to describe it. The route running, the hands, things we've seen do good in training camp. Now the next step, can you do that in a game? And we'll see that tomorrow. And then just some others, the back end of that receiver room. Jamal Pritchett, Brandon Smith, Malachi Corley. Corley has done nothing. If he doesn't do anything in these games, I don't think he's making this roster. Jamal Pritchett, From a special teams perspective, we'll talk about him a little bit later on. I think he's had a very strong camp. I think there's a very real chance he makes this team. He's going to get opportunities tomorrow. He's flashed a bit as a receiver, so watch out for him. And Brandon Smith as well. He had a good spring and has had a nice summer. You look at the way this wide receiver room is shaped up. You have Garrett, Josh Reynolds. I still think Lazard makes this team. Tyler Johnson, Arian Smith. All those guys, those 5. I still think those are locks. Even Lazard, although he's done nothing and they can move on, I think he's on this team. He's a good run blocker. I think they'll keep him around just as a veteran. So that's 5. If you keep 6, then that final battle is essentially Pritchett, Brandon Smith, Corley, and Gibson, who's hurt, won't be out there, but throw his name in there as well. So that's kind of the state of the receiver room. You have a couple guys battling for a final spot or 2. So these games are important for those guys. So that's the wide receiver room. In terms of the tight ends, Jeremy Ruckert needs to just do something. He has not had a good camp. He had the drop yesterday that went into the arms of Brandon Stevens. I'm interested to see because he'll be out there with the first team, of course, with Mason Taylor doing a high ankle sprain, which unfortunately he won't be out there obviously tomorrow. So Ruckert's going to get a chance to redeem himself a bit and get some looks potentially in the receiving game. We'll see. But Stone Smart's another name I'm looking at tomorrow and all preseason long, who I personally think has a shot to overtake Ruckert as this team's tight end too, especially when you look at the receiving ability. Stone Smart's flashed a bit the last week and a half here in training camp, and Ruckert has just done really nothing of note in camp and has done nothing of note to improve as a receiver in his 3 years so far as he enters year number 4. So those are 2 guys to look for tomorrow. With Mason Taylor out, they're going to get some extended opportunities. You need to get something outside of Mason Taylor in that tight end room. You need to. Whether that's Stone Smart, Jeremy Ruckert, or that is something that the Jets find potentially somebody gets cut, they pick them up when cut downs happen, and they add somebody that way. There's a chance that there's a tight end out there that's going to get released that could automatically come in and be this team's tight end too, better than Ruckert and Stone Smart. But for the time being, those are the 2 guys behind Mason Taylor of note. As for the offensive line, kind of tie in with the run game, I'm just excited to see this group from a run blocking perspective. I know it's the preseason, but I'm looking forward to tomorrow. A couple of those run plays where this offensive line, which we've seen in the training camp so far, just create a couple nice holes. Olu's been excellent. Watching him tomorrow will be a lot of fun. And obviously Armand Membu, his first live NFL game action. That'll be very, very fun to watch and something to keep an eye on. Membu, I thought, had a very good practice on Thursday. Will McDonald came back from the back spasms on Thursday, and I thought Membu held his own. I thought both tackles. Olu did have a holding penalty, but outside of that, I thought both tackles were very good. I thought it was one of the better pass protection days for the Jets on Thursday at training camp. So tomorrow, run blocking, little Joe Tippmann, Josh Meyer center competition. Continue to keep an eye on that because that's something of note. And Tippmann, Myers, with Simpson out, guard potentially. So some rotating pieces there. But this is an offensive line that should be a strength of this team. They've had a good camp, and seeing them in game tomorrow should be fun and something to keep an eye on. So that's the offense. Moving on to the defensive side of the football. Will McDonald, very good summer. Not a ton to look for with him. My only thing is just the size against the run tomorrow. Something to keep an eye on. Mainly, though, it's the defensive tackle and the edge depth for this team. The defensive end and defensive tackle depth. Byron Cowart won't be playing because he's dealing with the injury. Him and Quinnen Williams both out, of course. So missing some pieces up front. I assume Will McDonald would play. I mean, he returned on Thursday with the back spasms. I assume he is playing. But either way, Derek Nottie, Jay Tufele, Leonard Taylor, some of those depth interior defensive line guys, I still think there's a real chance the Jets might add, and in some ways should add, an interior defensive lineman before this season begins. But that's who we're working with right now. I think actually Tufele's had a pretty good summer, but Nadi's really hasn't been much of a factor. I'll even throw Peyton Page out there. I don't think he makes the team, but he's kind of been one of them training camp out of the middle of nowhere players that has made some plays. But Quinnen Cowart seems to be your starting combo. Obviously Quinnen, but Cowart rather seems to be that starting DT2 next to Quinnen, but won't be playing. So Nadi will get some looks. Tufele will get some looks. Leonard Taylor is going to get some looks. How does he look against the run? All things to look for. And with Jermaine Johnson, we say this every time, feels like every episode here, but it's a key point with him out, of camp right now on the PUP list and starting up the season a little slow coming off the Achilles. Rashad Weaver, I think, has had a good camp. How can he translate that to a game tomorrow? That will be interesting. I think he's popped at times as a pass rusher. Michael Clemens is still a guy this team values. Very important preseason, I still think, for him. And the rookie Tyler Barron as well. Keep an eye on him. Any of these rookies, keep an eye on them. First NFL game will be interesting there to watch. But that's really the stuff up front on the defensive line. A lot of depth stuff there. Linebackers, I'm excited to see Quincy and Sherwood, even if it's for a drive or two. They've been great this offseason. Quincy's been excellent. This has by far been his most dominant training camp. He looks like he's in for a massive, massive season. So seeing those two guys out there will be a lot of fun as always. And some other names as well. Marcelino McCrary-Ball has had a very good training camp. He has been very impressive. He's been one of my main training camp standouts. Very quick, has popped. Really feels like he's going to be on this team and is going to play a role on this team, potentially as the third linebacker. So he's somebody to look for. Jamin Davis as well. Both of these guys have emerged during the summer. Get an opportunity tomorrow to continue that success against the Packers. And the rookie as well, Kiko Maui-Noa, first live NFL game action. So keep an eye on that. In terms of the secondary, the cornerbacks, the safeties, sauce is sauce, nothing really there. Brandon Stevens is a big one, in my opinion. He is definitely something to keep an eye on. I hope he gets targeted a few times tomorrow, especially against Jordan Love and that Packers offense, just to see how he is from playing the ball perspective and that ball hawking ability that needs to be better. He's had a very good summer. He's done a lot of really good things. He's been a nice surprise. Now it's time to go out there in a game and prove that you're making the necessary improvements when playing the ball. So he's somebody to keep an eye on tomorrow. Michael Carter as well, coming off the injury from last year, has had a good camp. Somebody else to just see back out there. I really have high expectations for Michael Carter this year. I really do. Especially a defense that's going to run a lot of man. He is excellent in man coverage. So seeing him back out there on the field tomorrow should be good. And then just some of the cornerback depth. Quantez Stiggers, Derek Bernard Converse. Stiggers has had a good camp, and he had a good camp last year. Had a good preseason as well. It's been like the summer of Stiggers the last 2 years. So he looks to continue that tomorrow. Safeties-wise, Malachi Moore, Tony Adams, a little bit of a battle there. Really, really excited to see what Malachi Moore can do. Has had, I think, a very strong case this summer, has made rather a very strong case this summer to challenge Tony Adams for that starting job. Missed a little bit of time with the oblique, but is back. So somebody there to keep an eye on tomorrow. And I will also just throw Andre Cisco as well in that mix. A guy that's coming off a bit of a down year, but, a guy that I think has looked good this summer. And you hope in this defense can really emerge for this team. So he'll get a look tomorrow in the preseason in game. And then just some of the safety depth. Like Jarius Monroe's had a pretty good camp. Jordan Clark, Dean Clark. Monroe, I think, has a chance to make this roster. So he'll get an opportunity tomorrow. Malachi Moore, though, I'm really excited. Fits that Glenn billing. I'm also just intrigued to see, and I don't think they'll do much of it, but is there any blitzing from the secondary? It is the preseason, so they're not going to show a whole lot, but that's something that we've seen them do a lot in training camp and a lot under Steve Wilkes. So you look forward to seeing what they can do there from that perspective. The cornerbacks and the safeties have not been scared to send those guys home. And then in terms of special teams, kick returns, punt returns, Pritchett, Kanena Wangu, Arian Smith potentially. Keep an eye on him. Zay Davis, any of those guys, those have all been the guys back returning kicks and punts. Pritchett's a big one. If he can flash as a punt returner tomorrow and he does some things as a receiver in these preseason games, there's a real chance he makes this roster. In terms of the kick returning, a couple different guys there. Nwangu feels like very well could win the job. Cisco's been back sometimes in training camp with punt returns, but I don't expect him to play tomorrow or return any of those tomorrow. I think that's Pritchett, and Pritchett's big opportunity, especially with Gibson out. And then the kickers, Nick Folk, Harrison Mevis. Mevis feels at this point like a camp leg, but you get a very good gauge of the kickers in games. So that's something to look forward to as well. So that's a preseason preview. Jets, Packers, tomorrow night, Lambeau Field. Cannot wait. It's a live football game. And man, fired up. I'm fired up. I'm excited. No, it doesn't count, but it's live football. The starters are playing, and I'm looking forward to it. So we'll be back after the game with our preseason recap. All of my biggest takeaways from game number 1. So stay tuned for that. What are you looking forward to tomorrow night for the Jets and Packers? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and any other Jets takes you've got. Let me know down below. Appreciate your support as always. Until next time, JETS. Jets, Jets, Jets.